You surely know that the United States was the first country to develop the atomic bomb, but did you know that so far 10 countries around the world have successfully developed this technology? Some of them helped one another, but most advanced their nuclear weapons programs under extreme secrecy, through espionage, rivalry, and betrayal. The stories of all these nations are just as thrilling as America's Manhattan Project. In today's episode, we will follow the entire timeline to see how these 10 countries entered into competition with one another to develop nuclear weapons, and also look at those countries that nearly succeeded, or may soon join this list. The story begins in 1938, when German scientists first discovered nuclear fission, a process that releases enormous amounts of energy through a chain reaction by splitting atoms. In 1939, Albert Einstein warned the United States that this technology could be used to build terrifying weapons. During World War II, the United States secretly carried out the Manhattan Project, which resulted in the creation of the world's first atomic bomb. Scientists from the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada worked together on this project, which consumed nearly 1% of total U.S. GDP. The U.S. had little choice. Germany was also trying to build an atomic bomb, although it ultimately failed and surrendered in May 1945. Just weeks later, in July 1945, while President Harry Truman was attending the Potsdam Conference with Stalin and Churchill to discuss Germany's future, he received news of the successful Trinity test in New Mexico. With the world's first successful atomic bomb test, the United States became the owner of the most powerful weapon on Earth. Truman informed Stalin that the U.S. had developed a new and extraordinarily powerful weapon and was preparing to use it against Japan. Unknown to Truman, Stalin was already running a secret Soviet nuclear weapons program and even had spies inside the Manhattan Project. Still, Stalin was furious that the Americans had beaten him to it. In August 1945, the United States dropped 2 atomic bombs, Little Boy and Fat Man, on Japan, forcing its surrender and ending World War II. But this also marked the beginning of a new race. Other nations now wanted to join the nuclear technology race. The second country to develop nuclear weapons was the Soviet Union. Soviet research began as early as 1941, especially after German, British, and American scientists suddenly stopped publishing papers on nuclear fission, raising Soviet suspicions of secret weapons programs. After the atomic bombings of Japan, the Soviet Union accelerated its efforts. Although the Soviets obtained stolen intelligence from the Manhattan Project, they never relied entirely on it, fearing deliberate misinformation. They conducted extensive independent research and also made use of captured German scientists. Finally, in 1949, far earlier than the U.S. had expected, the Soviet Union successfully tested its first atomic bomb, RDS-1, in Kazakhstan. The U.S. monopoly on nuclear weapons was over, and the Cold War nuclear arms race had begun. The third country was the United Kingdom. Many assumed the U.S. simply helped Britain, but in reality, the U.K. had already made major progress before America. In 1940, Britain launched its own project called tube alloys, aided by German, Austrian, and Polish scientists who had fled Nazi Germany. However, wartime shortages forced Britain to merge its research with the Manhattan Project under the Quebec Agreement, which promised shared nuclear knowledge and non-use against each other. After the war, the U.S. canceled the agreement and stopped sharing results. Feeling betrayed, Britain restarted its independent program and successfully tested its first atomic bomb during Operation Hurricane near Australia in 1952. After the Soviet breakthrough, the U.S. began developing an even more powerful weapon, the thermonuclear or hydrogen bomb, which uses nuclear fusion rather than fission. Despite warnings from scientists like Robert Oppenheimer, President Truman authorized the project. In 1952, the U.S. tested Ivy Mike, over 450 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Nagasaki. The Soviet Union tested its hydrogen bomb in 1955, and the UK followed in 1957 with Operation Grapple. In response, the U.S. resumed nuclear cooperation with Britain in 1958. The fourth country was France. After World War II and the humiliation of the Suez Crisis, France sought strategic independence. Under President Charles de Gaulle, France pursued its own nuclear deterrent. Using uranium from its colonies, France tested its first atomic bomb in Algerian Sahara in 1960 and its first hydrogen bomb in 1968. The fifth country, China, pursued nuclear weapons mainly to deter the United States. Initially aided by the Soviet Union, China continued independently after relations collapsed. Despite internal crises such as the Great Leap Forward and Cultural Revolution, China tested its first atomic bomb in 1964 and a hydrogen bomb just 36 months later, faster than any other nation. The sixth country was Israel, which has never officially admitted possessing nuclear weapons. Evidence suggests Israel completed its program around 1966 with French assistance. In 1986, whistleblower Mordecai Vanunu exposed Israel's secret nuclear program. He was later kidnapped by Mossad and imprisoned for 18 years. The seventh country was India, which developed nuclear weapons mainly in response to China and Pakistan. India conducted its first test, Smiling Buddha, in 1974, calling it a peaceful nuclear explosion. After further tests in 1998, India became a recognized nuclear power. The eighth country, South Africa, secretly built nuclear weapons during the apartheid era, but later became the first nation to voluntarily dismantle its nuclear arsenal in the 1990s. The ninth country, Pakistan, pursued nuclear weapons after its defeat by India and the creation of Bangladesh in 1971. Led by Ad Qadir Khan, Pakistan tested its first nuclear weapons in 1998, shortly after India's tests. Pakistan follows a first-use nuclear doctrine, unlike India's no-first-use policy. Finally, the 10th country is North Korea, which sees nuclear weapons as essential for regime survival. After withdrawing from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, North Korea tested its first nuclear test in 2006 and later tested hydrogen bombs. Although only 10 countries have built nuclear weapons, many others have come close. Some host allied nuclear weapons, while others abandoned their programs through treaties creating nuclear weapons-free zones. Despite international agreements, nuclear weapons remain widely deployed, often hidden deep beneath the oceans in submarines, forming the backbone of modern nuclear deterrence.